Welcome. My name is Neil Thrussell,
And my name is Jamie Adamchuk.
and I'm really excited to have my friend Dr. Tony Pennells from way down under, who's not really that far right now. He's in Southern California. Welcome, Tony.
Welcome.
Thanks so much, Neil and Jamie, and it's an absolute delight to be on with you guys.
Yeah. So I introduced you as Dr. Tony Pennells, but you've embarrassed the family. You've given up being a doctor to help people become financially free. Why?
Oh, you're so funny. Well, that's a good point. Look, the reality is your job and your career doesn't define who you actually are as a person. It's only one facet of your life. And you got to go back a little bit further in my story to sort of understand where that comes in. And, I was born in a country called Rhodesia. We had a civil war there. And my family, very strong Monty Python fans, they bravely ran away.
Yes.
Left everything behind down to South Africa, came across to Australia, and I'll cut the short version of the story, but that double move with knowing nobody when we moved out to Australia, with virtually nothing, the stress they put on the family eventually tore the family apart, which gave me a very acute sense of how destructive not having money and not having that side of your life managed can actually be to a family. I was homeless for a short period of time, and I made the decision that stopped with me. It would never happen again in my generations of families. And this is slightly out of time context because I was actually starting to study medicine before I was homeless. But what happened was I was following the idea of go to school, get good grades, get a good career. And one of my big drives behind that at the time was really a drive to make sure that I put an impenetrable financial wall around myself and my family. And medicine seemed like a solid career to do it. And got into that, started looking at by the way, great profession. I still consider myself to be a healer. I just do it around financial wellness now and community financial wellness. But when I looked at the financial health of doctors, what I found was that it was a real solid myth that they were financially secure. Most of them had good incomes, but they were very vulnerable to any disruption in that income. And you look around now, you'll see many of them working into their 70s and later, where you see them have big houses, they're often mortgaged. You see them have nice cars, they're often financed. They lift their standard of living up to the point where they actually can't walk away from their profession. And I got to see that firsthand. One of the things that came out of me coming out of a place of civil war out to Australia was I listen, but I look. And so I wasn't just looking at the lives of people who are 10, 20 years ahead of me. I was looking at the impact of their choices on their family. And the reality of it was I was just getting married. I planned to be a father. I planned to enjoy life as well, and a career of traditional medicine was going to see me dedicating myself to that career and not having time to be a father, not having time to be a husband, most likely putting my health at risk at the same time, and that was not acceptable. So I needed to find a different path.
So what that says to me is that you had a strong desire to spend family time. That was what was driving you at the time. So desire, one of the 4 Ds. So, and I suspect it was not all rosy, easy to do to go from you're already on this path to screech, move over here. What, besides the desire, what kept you? Was it your gritty determination, your dedication to the big cause, or are you the disciplined kind of guy?
Well, it's a great one. I mean, discipline is an interesting one. I'm very dedicated to getting an outcome that I can clearly see, and I'm not necessarily disciplined in day-to-day activities, but I'm disciplined in hitting overall milestones and being uncompromising in hitting the big rocks. So I guess you're probably looking, and I can't really separate all of the 4 Ds, but I've got stories about each element of those. So I'll talk to the desire side first of all, and the first part was I looked at the career of medicine, and what I got clear on was I wanted my time back. What for financial freedom to me was really about freedom of choice, freedom to wake up in the day and choose how I spent that day, how I chose to spend the most precious commodity we've got, which is our time, right? It's the only thing none of us can get anything more of. And I wanted to be able to make the choice, the choice to be in Los Angeles where I am right now, learning a bit more, which probably talks to the discipline of mastering your craft. But the actual freedom of choice was what I wanted. And I knew I couldn't get that out of medicine, but I didn't know there was a better path. So I made a choice. I made the decision to say, does everybody live their life this way? Or do people have different choices? And I found that whilst the majority of people had careers and the majority of people just unquestionably bought into the notion that they had to exchange their time for money, and that's still very much the case today. It seems like everybody goes, oh, you've got to sell your time for money. What I found was the few people who were actually successful didn't buy that premise. That they knew the main game was to buy your time back. And the moment I saw that and I had the chance to see through some people's eyes who had done it, that gave me an unbelievably strong desire. So I needed my time back like I needed my next breath. Okay. And that infused down at a cellular level that I would find a way. I had no skills, no background in that, but I needed to find the way. So I got very determined that the fact I had no skills, no experience, no knowledge, nothing in that case, I would change that. So I'd say desire of a clear outcome of a vision of what the future could be. And all I needed to know was if somebody had done it, it was doable, right?
Yes.
And if somebody had done it, it was possible. So if it was possible, surely it could be possible for me if I was prepared to put the same determination, the same dedication, uncompromising to the outcome, and the discipline to keep staying true to that course. And I don't know if that gives you the answer to the question. All of those come in, but desire led to determination, which then said, okay, if I'm serious about doing this, there is no try, there is only do.
Yes, Yoda. So you're probably not like the rest of us, and you've probably never failed, ever, 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 ever. But in the odd chance that you have, so from any of your failures or possible learning opportunities, what have you taken away from these classified as most people would say were failures?
Oh, you're too funny. I think there's one thing when I guess you go out there to make a difference and make an impact and try to do anything that steps you out of the comfort zone, which is often how we define what's doable, right? It's what we know we can do. So we don't risk pushing ourselves outside because we'll only hold ourselves back to the things that we are 100% sure we can accomplish. So most people, failure is actually in their head. They sort of look at it in their head. They kind of think through it and they go, I don't know how to do it, therefore it can't be done. They don't even try. So that's for most people. But I think that, and I've gone off on a tangent. You asked the question around sort of failure and how you come back from that. And I think that I've got a lot of traumatic amnesia around my failures. So I think that's probably one of the sort of mechanisms is forget the sort of trauma and the self-doubt and the lying in the corner in a quiet room crying in a puddle trying to go, surely this shouldn't be this hard, But I think the one of the key sides of that is for me, at least anyway, is I don't see a goal as something in the future. One of the key things that I see is that I work very hard on for anything serious I want to accomplish or manifest or draw into my life. I work very hard on getting clear of what my life would look like, what that change would actually mean. And I step into that reality in my mind, and I try to clearly see that reality and embody what that actually feels like and looks like I'm already there. And I find this is a tremendous trick because what it means is in my body, I know I've succeeded. Yes. Now I've just got to work out how I got there, right? Yeah. So then the path then is just figuring it out. So if you ever take a wrong turn somewhere, you go, okay, wrong turn, U-turn, come back. And I kind of view failure that way. It's just figuring the path out, like that little, that sort of maze drawing you kind of go into. And I've probably learned over time that, I took a lot of solace, I guess, out of knowing how long it took Edison to develop the light bulb. And I go, well, if it took him 10,000 times, and we look around us at the various successes and know how many so-called failures or trials that people would have had to get any of the major successes in life, then failure is not personal, it's not deep, it's just a little flesh wound. And, doesn't stop the wave from washing over you, but breathe, let the wave wash away, and put a step forward again.
That's beautiful and profound. But at some point in time, were you born with this ability just to say and move forward? So you failed, you stubbed your toe. What keeps you moving beyond? Like you've stubbed your toe, you've hit a roadblock, and is it innate in you, or what is it that keeps you moving? Gee,
that's a deep question, and how far do we go into it here? I don't think it's true in every area of my life. I think for all of us, I'll look over certain things, and there's certain parts of my fitness. I used to be a national level swimmer, and I found it hard in my own personal health, even today, to get the same discipline to get that fitness back and maintain it. And so it's hard to sort of, I don't look at that as a major success in my life. But if I look at, building a financial wall, I'm driven. So if I look at the comparison, I don't see the elements of my health with a clear outcome at this point, to be honest. And there's discussions around that, internal dialogue around what I need to do to get the motivation to do it. But when I look through the eyes of creating financial security or financial freedom, I see the eyes of my kids' grandkids.
Yes.
So that there, I go, I've learned a fair bit. I've wheeled my wheelbarrow forward in that area a fair bit. And I look through that, and it's not about me. And I think that's probably one of the things that drives is I'm very focused on contribution, and that is to those around me and those that follow. And I think that's probably what allows me to see my stub toe in that context. It's, it's just a flesh wound, move on. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how I see it.
It does think, I can see Jamie like,
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I've got a question here with respect to rituals. Now, one of the great things you shared with us was stepping in and visualizing that goal, that outcome, really stepping into it. Are there any other key rituals that you could share with us that you maybe practice on a regular basis that can lead towards that success?
I don't know if this might not be fully in the word rituals, but I'll talk about a couple of things that I do to stand guard at my mind. Okay. Because I think there's probably two elements to give your mind a focus and a wash along the way. One of them is that I take time. Okay. I generally will take an hour and a half to 2 hours in the morning. I like to take time to reflect. I like to be around water and take time to, I don't have a formal meditation practice the way that Neil has, but I have a life meditation practice where I'll take time to just try to be grounded when I'm walking, be present, and take that time to just give myself clear space and time to process and think. And I think that's one of the things that is vitally important, because life's got so many distractions and so many things that want to distract you to the gravel of things that really don't mean much in the big context of life. The second thing is I surround myself with people who nurture and believe that something is possible. And I try to be careful to be around people that will believe in the possibility, and equally people who challenge me, both through who they are and in what they're accomplishing and what they do, and just be around that sort of positive energy is something I take very seriously. I've always, since I was 24 years of age, I got my first mentor, and I always have mentors, formal and informal, in my life. People that I can be vulnerable and talk to. I'm a part of communities with mentoring. And those are a couple of things that I look at to stand guard at my mind, both for myself, the internal monkey chatter that happens for every single one of us, those those
Speak for yourself. No.
I was talking about every single one of my multiple personalities.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't reflecting anything in yourself, but also equally those that will kind of, throw little seeds of arsenic into your self-belief, and that try to stand guard of that as best as you can. Not always possible, because often it's the people closest to you that can kind of, stick the knife in deepest. But I don't know if that answers the question.
Absolutely. And what I love about that is, not holding it that personal. Same thing as, it's just a flesh wound. It's along those same sort of lines. That's beautiful. Thank you.
And it's amazing. My next question it was completely something that we haven't brought into our talks before, is how important there's mentors in your life. And then you go and talk about having mentors. So you must have been reading my mind.
Well, to be honest, that's actually one of the things that got me out to Los Angeles, where I am now. Because my home, by the way, which I don't think was mentioned, is in Perth, Western Australia, which has a dubious honour of being the most isolated capital city in the world. And one of the things I regularly do, in fact, we caught up in Calgary recently, Neil, as well, is I will travel to where I need to be to get the information I need. And for me, one of the things I wanted it's informal mentoring here. There's a company, is it okay if I mention what I'm at?
Absolutely.
Cool. Yes. Okay. So I'm at the Content and Commerce Summit, which is a big event run by a digital marketer, headed up by a gentleman by the name of Ryan Dice. I've never met Ryan. I've never been in a formal meeting with them, but I admire a lot what I think I see him doing to shift and consolidate and advance an industry. And I wanted to come along live. I could have got recordings and the like, but I wanted to come along live. I just wanted to feel that energy and vibe, and actually particularly wanted to be at a keynote address, which happened yesterday. So it's another example of, how seriously I'll take, looking to get people that will kind of expand my mind, context, shift things around.
And I'm going to throw in, actually, and you were at another event, which was one of our speakers. You were actually at an event that Jay Bissett.
Mastermind to Millions in Phoenix. Yes, and that's exactly right. I was across there a handful of days ago for a very similar reason. Jay's a personal friend. I was excited to hear he was going to be one of your guest speakers on the call, because he's brilliant. I love him to death. He's got a heart of gold. And he ran an event with, I think, just under 200, 160, 170 people, teaching them around masterminds to cause transformation and the like. And it was a very similar reason that I was across at that event as well.
So it's fun because, I love Jay, and we might have to be really fast when we interview Jay on the beat button, because sometimes he's known to say words that aren't PG-13. But back to, so I'm getting the desire is huge in your life, and you visualize it. So were you always like this, or was something occurred in your life, like you left a war-torn country and that could have given you the drive? But have you always been a visualizer, or is there another event in your life that really cemented this desire to visualize?
I mean, that's a good question. I can go back to a couple of things, and this will get a lot deeper for a short while than the playful nature we've had on the call today. But the one part that I didn't share earlier that tore my family apart was I actually saw my mum going through massive abuse for 20 years before she had the strength to leave. And as I'll watch my emotions here, because this stuff cuts deep. But as a child, I couldn't intervene. I couldn't help her. And when I had the strength to do so, she was out of that circumstance, thank goodness. But that drives me hugely in what I do now. In fact, for years, I couldn't even offer what I was doing to men, because I saw that through the eyes of the abuse my mum had suffered. Fortunately, a lot of work which has happened since then allows me to be totally happy and safe with you guys. I love you guys. You're awesome. But I say that in serious. It's a big issue. You guys would know the issues of abuse that happen is massive and huge, and the impact goes far beyond who it occurs to. And I think the desire for a better life led me to, I can actually still remember the time. I was 21. I just turned 21. And it took me to a personal development event that was the first time I ended up walking on hot coals. And it was through that the person leading the event at the time, that was the first time I learned visualization, goal setting. It was at that time I had an experience that was actually still profound today because it still occurs. And that I was sitting in there and we were going through a guided meditation, and in a moment I actually saw, almost like matrix lines in the back, the sort of the decisions and lines of the past that had got me to where I was standing in the moment, and the lines extended out to the future. And I could see with certainty the path I was actually on, where it would lead to. And that there allowed me to go, oh my gosh, and I can still tap into that now. And from that experience at 21, that's kind of, I guess, would be the catalyzing event that's guided how I look at that now. And I still can go back in and tap into that same energy now to just get a sense and a feel for where I'm at, what feels in alignment, what doesn't feel in alignment, and what I need to change. And that does drive a lot.
Thank you for sharing that very emotional and heartfelt experience. But you could have, if that was an edged weapon, you could have fallen on the woe is the victim side. But in what I hear from you is you fell on the I'm going to fix this side. Mm. What is this? Is this a skill that you've honed, or is this just you believe that it's your innate personality that I am not going to be a victim. I am going to take charge of my life.
I don't know how to separate that out, to be honest, Neil. I think anybody can stand in the power of how they want to show up. I think it's within all of us that we can find that. I think it's an innate skill. It's an innate ability within every single one of us. This fight for survival, this fight to be better, this fight to make this life, our time on this planet, actually mean something, right? Yes. But I think sometimes that can be deeply buried, and sometimes it can be covered with a lot of dust and a lot of, conditioning and experiences people have gotten. And, I think it's innate within every single one of us. And I guess I was blessed enough to have the strength to ask for help when I needed it. Often, by the way, that wasn't actually asking for help. I would just put myself in an environment where I could kind of hear it because, yes. And I've gotten better at that over time. But I think it's actually innate within all of us. I think sometimes we've just forgotten, and we just need to be reminded, and then to have some people believe in us and sort of grab us a little bit and carry it along.
Thank you. Like, it was a completely, it's not part of the 4D. So thank you but I believe that it's paramount because people can be victims or choose to be victims or be victims and not realize that they have a choice to get out of it. So I'm going to ask even another crazy question. How would you, with all your years of experience, if Neil Thrussell, I'm in victimhood, and I can't see to get out of this victimhood, what would you offer as inspiration, because you can't force me out of it, to help me out of my victimhood?
I mean, first of all, you've got to be able to get in a position where there can be trust and safety in the conversation. That for me is one of the key things that I found is, you can't go and say, hey, you're wrong, you're silly, you're for that. You've got to find trust and safety and just meet a person where they're actually at. And then what I find makes a difference is to then go and look at that visualization of, if you had a magic wand, and this is a question I use often, if you had a magic wand or Midas touch and everything you touched turned into gold, and you had a blank canvas, how would you want to live your life? Not how did you get there from where you are now, because many times you can't see that, right? And to try to see the path is not possible. But let's just leave that aside for a second, and let's just forget how improbable this may be. But if you had the chance to design your life, design an intentional life, how would you paint it? It was a complete blank canvas. And the reality is, tomorrow is a blank canvas for every one of us, right? It's a brand new day. But I'd look at that side there, and I would try to get clear on what was most deeply important for how that person wanted to design their life. And then if we got that clarity, I'd then gently move back and I'd try to explore what were the things that were in that person's control that they could change or alter. And I think for all of us, we've got things we can control. We've got things we can influence. And then we've got things that are out of control, out of our control.
Yes.
And I think, and for me, I think when somebody gets stuck, often they're seeing through the lens of what's actually outside of their control. But in every case, we've got those small things we can control and try to focus on that, and step by step, just gradually increase that just a little bit. And if you focus in that area, you can shift and redesign your life. And you can't necessarily do it in a day or a week or a month or even a year sometimes, depending on things. But step by step, you can gently move into an intentional life. And that would be what I'd do.
Thank you. I love the term intentional life. I really do. And I believe that so many people miss out in life because they're just letting it happen without the intention. Like we're in debt or whatever because we don't look after our finances, and we end up at 70 years old or trying to retire when we just financially can't, because it's just crazy. Jamie, what have you got to ask?
Well, what I'd really like to touch on there, obviously the visualization exercise is absolutely incredible. It's those small incremental shifts. And I'd love to come back to that for just a second, because isn't it true? If you look at all the points on your circumference, everything starts out very close together, but the more and more and more you work on, the wider that angle becomes, the further you get from that one potential outcome to the outcome that you're actually striving for. So I honor you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully it makes a difference to people who are listening.
Me too.
Yes.
So one of the questions for most people, you're financially, what's the term we will use? Financially free. You're still choosing to pursue things in life, not things, but activities. Like to most people, you've been a doctor. You're now you're spending time with your family when you're not in LA. But I've discovered for people with success, there's always this one other thing that they're chasing. Well, maybe not chasing, they're striving for, their dreams, their desires. What is it that's just slightly out of your reach that has got, Tony, juice that he's really wanting to share and bring into this world?
Oh, something slightly out of our reach. It's possibly more than slightly out of our reach, right? If you go back a little bit further, I've built, this is my 7th enterprise that I'm building, and this is my first social enterprise that I'm building now. And I'm driven very much by the pain my family felt, the pain my mother went through, and to the best of my ability, I want to eradicate that on the planet. So for me, I look at the eyes of where our culture is right now, which is so many people in stress over money,
yes,
deeply in debt. I look ahead at the aging population today, and I know that they're in a world of hurt. And I know it gets worse as they need assisted care when they get a little bit unwell in their age years. I know our governments don't have the extra money to support that position. And I know that burden is starting to fall heavily on the next generation coming up into a very disrupted workforce and an uncertain workforce. And my fervent belief is that we actually need to come together as a culture to look after financial wellness. We need to find ways to improve financial resilience, and we need to, and as best as I can, I figured out how to get out the rat race. I believe in things like universal basic incomes. I believe in everybody's entitlement to having a roof over their head, clothes on their back, food on their table as a divine right. I believe that as a society, we need to do what we can to make that happen, to move that stress. I believe that poverty is something that we can actually eradicate. And I believe it.
Yes.
And I believe it comes from a healthy middle class. It comes from a middle class that's financially resilient, and a middle class that can tithe down and help. And I believe that the government needs our help, but can't do it on its own. And I believe the government actually exists to serve us, not the other way around.
Yes.
And so what drives me is to create a tipping point where we can take the best of the information. Like for me, I've got good mentors and good friends and good people in my lives who are financially free, many from young ages. And I've been privy to conversations, not only that I have with my kids that I pass on, but conversations that people have with their children, etc. But there's this great divide around the haves and the have-nots, and there's a great uncertainty and a lack of safety around this thing called money. It's completely not necessary. So I believe in bringing the community together to share the best of the information, to actually make a healing and actually make a difference. And that's what we're endeavoring to do with our cause, which is Mindshift Money, is to create virtual communities to bring those discussions together, and then actually create education platforms to make that happen and the resources people actually need. And if we come together big enough, and we're at 25,000 members through 30 countries right now, and in 9 doublings time, my data says we actually tip. We can actually change and shift the needle to a new center point, a healthy center point. And that's what I'm actually after next, which is 20 million people changing their behaviors, changing conversations in communities, and literally tip it. And so that's what I'm after now. So just a little bit beyond my reach.
Wow.
But achievable.
It's achievable.
Yes.
Excellent.
It's definitely achievable.
Yes.
But it needs all of us. It needs us all to lock arms together to make a difference.
Sweet. I love that vision. Thank you. So I'm going to go back to, my name is Niels Russell, and I'm a 19-year-old, and I am just starting out, and I don't really know how to be successful. So if you were to coach, mentor, inspire me, help me along the way, what would you say to this young mind, pretend it's a young mind, and help me achieve success?
Okay. So I'm going to turn and ask you a question. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay. So tell me what success means to you.
Freedom. Freedom to do what I want, when I want, and how I want.
Okay. So what would change in your life if you were free?
Okay, I'm on this spot. Freedom.
So I'm turning the tables on this interview.
This is good. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm trying to think of be my 19-year-old. So say it again, because now I got off there.
What would change in your life? So I'll ask the question a different way. At what point do you perceive that freedom that you see would come about?
When I no longer was chasing finance, and I was free to choose at any time.
Cool. Okay, so let's just tease that a little bit further, and just for the sake of probably not turning into a 3 to 4 hour coaching session. So just for the sake of that, I'd be first of all going and wanting you to get clear with a false premise. And the false premise is that time is money. And the false premise is that you've got to exchange your time for money. So what you've just expressed for me is, I'd say, so the reason you're not free right now is because a significant part of your time, you've got to be exchanging your time for money. Is that fair to say? That's kind of the unspoken assumption, right?
Okay, yes.
So when we can get your money coming in without you having to work, the moment your base expenses are covered, now you're free, right?
Yes.
At what point, imagine 19-year-old you, how much income do you need coming in a month before you actually first have that choice?
Cool. And thank you.
So the key there for me, this was the question was asked of me, only I was 21 at the time. And for me, it was about 7,000 a month would have me free, give me the first choice. Okay. Now we were earning more than that out of medicine at the time, but I didn't need, for me, freedom wasn't lifestyle of Beyonce or, any of the rock stars. It was the first point at which I had the option not to go have to sell my time for money. And you'll notice my choice of words, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the key side there was that I got really clear on that. And we spoke earlier about the clarity of how you want to get your life, of how you design an intentional life. So I got really clear when I had income coming in that I didn't have to exchange my time for. When it was over 7,000, I was free. And I hit that at 26 and 9 months of age because I saw it. So the premise is the first job is to buy your time back. Okay. Now, that's the first premise I'd say 19-year-old you. I say, here's the game, is to buy your time back. Now, it would have been a damn sight better if your parents had done it for you already. But seeing as they haven't, let's get yours back and let's let you do that for your kids that might not be here yet. So the first goal is now, what are you doing now that's going to allow you to buy your time back so you can choose to have the freedom to place that time wherever is most important to you without contaminating it by money.
Sweet. Thank you. It was, this has been beautiful. It's been fun.
Can I take it a touch further for a business owner?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the next premise that goes off the back of that is then most people, because if I understood right, a lot of your audience are going to be business owners or people that are self-employed, employed in some way. Is that a fair statement or not?
It could be. It's because it's just going out there. We do not know.
So what I'd say then for a lot of people, they then say, well, I'll get into business and I'll get my freedom from business. And the reality of it is there is no true freedom in a business. Your freedom actually lives outside of your business. So you might have more choices. You might choose to, be in a business that allows you to be geographically agnostic or geographically neutral. Mm-hmm. You might choose to have a bit more time back, but you don't have the choice to take your foot off the pedal completely, or else the business might fail and you're back in the same position. So the key goal is your freedom it lives outside of your business. So the goal there is, how do you get enough income out of your business to then build a section of investments that produce the cash flow to set you free? Now, as a business owner, you have the privilege, if you use it right, that you can accelerate far faster to that than most people. But most business owners don't. And here's the reason why. They're missing a premise. And the next premise, which is this, is that your personal financial freedom plan must be built into your current business plan. And with that as a guiding true north, your decision-making around what you do, the profitability of your business, the products and services you offer, how you roll out those products and services is guided by how will each of those allow you to make the impact of service that your business does, because the business exists to serve. But importantly, how does it give you a pathway out to personal financial freedom?
Thank you. And Tony has just released 2 books on Amazon. So what are the titles of the books?
I happen to have 2 right next to me, would you believe, which was an accident because I was gifting some of them, but I'll show you them here. So the first book is It's About Time, Finally the Truth About Money. The basis of these books was actually what I wrote for my children. I started writing 40 pages of notes, had an opportunity came about to turn them into some books, and they're bestsellers in the personal finance space, which is a great privilege. So I'm hoping that when my kids are ready, they read them. The second one, which is one I'm extremely proud of because it's co-authored by an incredible young lady who I've got the privilege of calling my business partner, a lady by the name of Michaela Rogers, is called The Truth, The Real Secret to Building a Business That Sets You Free. And it's that book that I believe is actually a gift to everybody that is watching this webinar who would like it. And
firsthand, I've read them both. I read both of them, and now I'm actually rereading them in slow and steady and underlining. I'm doing the sacrilegious thing. I'm actually marking up a book.
I believe in exactly the same thing, by the way.
Yeah.
And thank you for reading them, Neil.
You're welcome. So, anything final to add, Jamie?
You know what? I think we've covered it. You've shared so many gems of knowledge, so much great stuff that it's going to definitely take us a few days just to go through it and pull these gems out. So thank you very, very much from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Well, guys, thank you to both of you for allowing me to be on this call, and hopefully some of the information impacts people at the right time in their lives.
Thank you. So thank you, Tony.